when you live and work in dangerous contexts, eventually you come to realize that the reason it's dangerous is because there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, we've got a lot of capability, and when you know exactly what the situation is, when you have perfect situational awareness, you can usually fix whatever's dangerous, and it's not nearly as bad. But when you don't have certainty, when you don't know what's around the corner, when you don't know how the day is going to turn out, then the only way that you can lead people is through trust. You can't give them all the answers. So the only reason they're going to do anything that you want them to do is if they trust you. There are about 2,200 people in this room, something like that. And it is just a sad fact that like 400 of you are going to go through a serious personal or professional crisis in the next year. And when I've polled my audiences and I've asked them how many people in the audience are experiencing a profound personal or professional crisis right now, I've never had less than 25%, and I've had as many as 50% of the audience say that they were. So you need to understand that you had breakfast this morning with a lot of people who are carrying a heavy load, and they're having to deal with the kinds of crises that were on that slide really right now, whether it's with family or parents, and you don't get any warning. I like to talk about this young lady's story just a little bit. 32-year-old mother of two, and out of the blue, she was diagnosed with an idiopathic cardiomyopathy. She just went into heart failure for no reason. And she struggled with it, and she struggled with it, and then finally, she had a transplant. And what you're seeing there is her holding her own heart following her transplant. And I can tell you that she had no idea that her life would ever take this turn. Her family had no idea, and yet they had to deal with it. And the principles involved with dealing with personal crisis, the psychology of it, is exactly the same as the principles involved with leading people in dangerous places. And the reason that I know this, the reason I know this story very well, is that that's my daughter. She had a heart transplant 87 days ago. And Friday, she got cleared to run again. Huge for our family. Thank you. And I talk to a lot of business audiences, and we want to get good for the leadership roles that we have in our organizations. But the fact is, your investment, for the most part, is in your family and your relationships. And so many of the things I talk about are going to apply there. In doing it, he teaches us a lesson about the way that rank and file employees generally look at their job and the crises that their businesses come in. The nature of that is that they're focused on the basics. Family, they're going to have a job. Can they make their mortgage? Will they be able to send their child to school? And often we as leaders, when we're working in the organization and there's a big problem, we're focused on the organization. And the people with us are like, you know, they're looking at us and we think they're with us. But let me tell you where their head is. Their head is with their family. Their head is with the very basics. And often leaders forget that. The lesson there is that in the midst of a crisis, there's a very strong tendency for people in the organization to set aside managerial policy. Things that you think people are doing, rules that you think people are following, they get pushed aside. Because when lives are on the line, nobody cares about the rule book that much anymore. They really don't. And it's the same way in our lives. We don't care how much money it costs to save somebody's life. We don't make resourcing decisions based on that. If we have to cut a corner because there's a serious ongoing crisis, that's going to happen. And as leaders, you need to understand that that's coming. You need to understand that people are going to make those kinds of choices. And about the best you can do is have them make choices like you would make them.